there, today I'm going to be explaining algebraic properties and one-step equations. Alright, one-step equations is what I'm going to focus on the most during this little session today. And then what we're going to be focusing on is isolating our variable. Remember, your variable is your letter, so in this first example, we want to isolate r. That means we need to get rid of everything on the same equal sign, or the same side of the equal sign that r is on. So what I generally do in the beginning process here is I like to draw a line right down my equal sign. That way it kind of splits it into two different sides, and you know exactly where you are going to either add or subtract from, or multiply or divide. So in this case we have a plus 1 here. And to undo a plus 1 or use the inverse of that, we think of the opposite. So the opposite of adding is subtracting. So we would subtract 1 from both sides because we want to think of it like a teeter-totter. And you'll hear me say a lot, there are no favorites in math. So whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other to keep it balanced. Okay, so you want your weight evenly distributed there. So whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other. Okay, so on the left-hand side I have just r, and on the right-hand side I have 6 minus 1, which is now 5. So I can find my answer that r equals 5. Now obviously we could have probably just used our basic math skills and we could have thought about trial by error. What plus 1 equals 6? Obviously that's 5. But it is important to know the steps behind this because we will see more complicated problems come up where trial by error isn't even logical, and we have to know the steps to isolate your variable. Okay, so the variable in this case, and if you see me split my equation into two sides here, the variable is going to be the y. So I do have a positive 2 that's in front of it. So the opposite of positive 2, or the inverse of positive 2, is negative 2. So I am going to subtract 2 from both sides. When I do that, I get y equals 11 minus 2, which is 9. So here my answer is y equals 9. The next one, I'm going to read this as 6 times a equals 30. So if I want to split it into two different sides here. 6 times a. So the inverse of multiplication is division. So I am going to divide each side by 6. And the reason I'm dividing by 6 is because I want to get a by itself. So I need to get rid of that 6. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So here, 6 divided by 6 is just 1a, and 30 divided by 6 is 5. And how we write this in algebra is just a equals 5. We do not need to write the 1 that appears in front of our variable. For our next one, I am going to split it into two separate sides. Again, the goal is to get our variable by itself. So we have b divided by 8. So now we need to get rid of that dividing by 8. So the opposite of division is multiplication. So I am going to multiply each side by 8. So again here, 8 divided by 8 is 1v, or we just say v. And 4 times 8 is 32. So we get the answer of v equaling 32. And the last one here, I want to get r by itself. So if I need to separate my two sides, I'm going to do that. If you don't want to separate your two sides of your equation, that's perfectly fine. You do not need to draw that line down the equal bar there. So to solve for r, we want to move or get rid of that minus 5, and the inverse of minus 5 we know is plus 5. So if I add 5 to one side, I must add 5 to the other. So I get r equals negative 3 plus 5. My integers come into play here, so I know that it's a positive 2. So R equals a positive 2.